put this on because a lot of you guys couldn't hear me before. The CD case said that it would be 8 30-minute sessions. That was 42 minutes, so the guy's killing me. But, we were asked to put together a devotional, and Lord works in mysterious ways. I didn't even know the title of this first series we were going to watch. I'd never seen it before. And I sat down and I got on the internet and I typed in God and the Constitution, and that's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. And I wrote up this outline. And then as I'm watching this, I'm just like, man, I nailed it. Didn't even know. I was actually afraid to come up here and give it because I thought, it's going to be really just, but he laid the stage, so now it won't be too bad. Humorously enough, I was going to lead off. The Founding Fathers have countless letters in the Library of Congress. Countless letters. Faith in God, Christian nation, Christian soldier. In fact, the one he read previously about the George Washington's letter to the officers about swearing. We cannot be an army of God, Christian soldiers, and expect to gain his liberty and trust if we allow this incontinence to continue amongst our ranks. I had that printed out on my desk back in when I was in the Air Force because I had a problem with my mouth. And when I first read it, I was like, wow, that's insane. And that's something I even mentioned weeks ago. This stuff has just been very interesting to me. From my generational perspective, with what I know about history, I believe that I can say that this nation is more divided now than it has been since the Civil War. We are polarized on every single topic. You're not just a Republican, you're a conservative Republican. You're not just a Democrat, you're a liberal Democrat. Everything is polarized. It used to be that religion was the great unifier because everybody went to church. So I could sit here and say, I don't like the president, and Zach can say, I do, and we can get into a headbutt. And the preacher could come up and say, stop fighting. You shouldn't hate because you're told not to hate. And you shouldn't like the guy because this is what he's doing. Or you should like the guy because this is what he's doing. But either way, the argument would dissolve. Religion was the unifier. You could open the Bible and say, boom. But the continuity was that we all had respect for the Word of God. That, unfortunately, is no longer the case. So the question that was asked, is America in trouble? Yes. Absolutely. Lincoln echoed it, but it says in Mark 3:25, a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Lincoln, of course, said a house divided against itself cannot stand. It was true then. It was true when Mark wrote it. It's true today. We see this happening to us. What's interesting is that we're arguing about first world problems. We were driving to church today, actually, and we drove by the neighbor's house, and they had a new zero-turn mower, and my son said, I really want to get one of those. And I said, why? And he said, because I don't want to have to drive forward and back up. And my instant response was like, yeah, that'd be nice. And then it occurred to me, I said, we live in a country where by law we own property. And that property has grass that by choice we can cut. And we don't have to go out there with the sickle or the old mechanical push mower or the old gasoline push mower, but we can actually put our butt on this thing and turn a key and drive it. And we're complaining that we have to back up. Even 50 years ago, even 20 years ago, a riding mower would have been nice. But it's first world problems. I look back at my the Founding Fathers, and one of those big dividing arguments that I see a lot on the internet is, are we a Christian nation? We may not be a Christian nation by law, but we were a nation of Christians. And I asked myself this logical question. Our Founding Fathers were representatives. They were sent by the people, of the people, by the people, for the people, right? By the colonies to go to Philadelphia on our behalf after we levied a tax, after we levied money to support an army, and we decided as 13 colonies to withdraw and fight the British for independence. So here we are. This is where we would have met. We would have met in church. Who are we going to send on our behalf? Let's send the guy who doesn't go to church to represent us, the church. No. We would have sent the guy who we know from the 2 days a week that we come into town, one day for church and one day to go to the store because the church ain't open on Sunday, or the store's not open on Sunday. We would have picked the guy who would have been the preacher or the doctor who sits back here or the lawyer who sat over there. We would have sent him to go to Philadelphia to speak on our behalf. Us being the children, them being the fathers, the Founding Fathers. I actually brought quotes to read of the Founding Fathers. I printed out 36 pages of quotes about the founders talking about God, but I think he did a good enough job, and he talked for longer than we expected, so I'll skip that. But we would have sent men who we knew were God-fearing men. We would have known them from church. They would have been educated men. The speaker mentioned Ivy League colleges. They were created by preachers, all of them. What he didn't mention is that it's a known fact that you could be sitting in class, mathematics, English, and a random professor could come up and pull you out and tell you to recite for him a random Bible verse in English or in the original language, Greek, Latin, Hebrew, Aramaic. And if you couldn't do that, you were sent to your room to study the Bible. Because if you didn't know the Word of God, then why do you have no need to know arithmetic. You have no need to know English. Thomas Jefferson, who everyone claims to be this great deist, he read the entire King James Version front to back by the time he was age 6. He graduated from Harvard Medical School as a surgeon at age 14. He was our ambassador to Russia at age 16. He was called a deist because, and he mentioned this is why I'm bringing it up, because back then, a deist was somebody who believed in divine intervention. They believed in the afterlife, but they didn't believe that all of the miracles of the New Testament were literal. That was what a deist was. The definition has been changed. And this is something that I speak about a lot when I'm talking to the young adult class, is that the English language has these key words that we would call God words. They were created simply to translate the Bible, like happiness. They've been redefined over the last 30, 40, 50 years. And we've allowed this to happen. And so the point that I was going to make, and I left my notes, I'm on a different train of thought now, but the point I was going to make is America in trouble? Yes. We have an article that came out yesterday from Fox News that the Church of Satan has put up a monument to Muhammad, who is essentially the equivalent of like the Apostle Paul to Jesus, is Muhammad to Satan. It is in the grounds of the Chicago City Hall. They're not even hiding it anymore. We're here, we celebrate, we worship Satan, get used to it. That's what they're saying. They're shoving it in our faces. Would that have been imagined as a possibility in the 1950s, in the 1940s, in the 1960s? No. In the 1990s? No. But it's happening today because we have allowed it to happen. That's what it comes down to. That's the bare bones basics of it. I'm not pointing fingers because I'm as guilty as the next person, but it's the realization of the knowledge that I feel the need to share. We have allowed them to change our culture to the point where we are forced to be so busy surviving the life as a man that we have no time or energy to serve God. We show up here while they speak to us through TV in a one-way conversation, and they twist the words of God with the silver tongue to where we believe it to be fact. Prime example was what was mentioned a couple weeks ago, that popular saying, God serves him God helps him who helps himself. That's nowhere in the Bible, but it's the most misquoted verse of the Bible. We have people who are out there rallying under the flag of Christ in one sentence, and in the very next breath spewing hatred and dissent, and they're going uncorrected. So yes, America's in trouble. The question would be why? If you were Satan, and there was a country that was established on the precepts and principles of the Bible, wouldn't that be your main target? Isn't that the one place you wouldn't want to survive? You've already corrupted the churches in Europe. Well, you can't go back to your old tactics, but this beautiful beach, this white sand beach of America, the land that everybody wanted to rush to for liberty, you have to pollute it as well. Well, how do you pollute a beach in a way that no one notices? One grain of sand at a time. One generation it's white. The next generation it's a little less white, and a little less, and a little less, and a little less. Then 50 years later, it's a gray beach. But that's how I've always known it. 50, 60 years later, it's a little darker and a little darker. Next thing you know, no one goes to that beach because it's just a big pile of sludge. No one stopped it because it's just one grain of sand. What difference does it make? So what do we do with the knowledge? We can choose to go home and roll back into what we do, or we can do something about it. Now, our founding fathers were very, very intelligent men. They educated themselves in Shakespeare, in the Bible, in these ancient writings that were kept away from them by the church. They were in the age of enlightenment, the age of knowledge. They spoke to each other, quoting Shakespeare. Nowadays, if you were to do that, people would look at you like, what are you talking about? I can't even quote Shakespeare that well, but I'm always reminded of one part, and I knew what play it was until now, of course. We will not go silently into the night. We will not go out without a fight. We will live on. We will prosper. We will survive this. Or will we just go off into the night? 300 years from now, will America still be here? Will it still be a free country? Will it still be a republic? Will people be sitting in school watching videos about this Christian sect that lived among us that are no more, talking about the Bible the way that we talk about Roman charters, talking about the Constitution like we talk about other ancient documents that no longer have any effect on us? The reason why the nation is where it is, the reason why these things are happening, why we are divided, why we have this great upheaval, is because we have allowed it to happen. I've allowed it to happen, and churches all over this nation. We've put such great emphasis on sending people on our behalf to other countries. How long until those people are sending people back over here? In the time of the founders, the main church in America was the Church of England. Now we're sending preachers to England. It's the way of the world. But until man as a whole can understand that the unifying factors that we need, the world peace that they seek, comes from civilized behavior. And the basic precepts of civilized behavior are taught in the Bible. We've turned our back on that. It used to be, don't have an affair, and now it's, well, I understand, it's okay, it's not your fault. Don't steal, well, it's okay, I understand, it's not your fault. All those things that we were told do not do, civilized behavior, now if you do it, it's okay. Well, now we're embracing our animalistic instincts. Animalistic people cannot survive in a civilized society. If you're not civilized, you do not have a civilization.